The Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, um, which is a nonpartisan, nonprofit think tank, which mainly advocates for being better about the budget. Um, they have this really fascinating paper where they look at the increase in the debt from 2001 to 2024, and they apportion it out to like, what is the debt increase due to? And they say it's 37% tax cuts, 33% spending, and 28% recession response. Because recessions are very expensive. It's a time when your tax receipts are going to fall because people lose their jobs. They're not hiring as much. Wage and income growth slows. Investments often don't pay off, so you're going to hit to capital gains as well. And you need to send money to help people. And you need to prop up things like food stamps and unemployment insurance. You need to send money. And state governments can't borrow. A lot of the times the federal government in a recession is sending money to state governments to keep them from like closing public schools. So it's an expensive time for the federal government's perspective. And the two worst recessions since the Great Depression happened in the 2008 financial crisis recession and the pandemic recession. They were both the most like catastrophic and the most expensive. So that's a hit. 28% comes from and that would be all the COVID response would be grouped into the pandemic recession response. So that 28% just comes from like, this is the cost of doing a business. You are a big government that can borrow and you oversee a cyclical economy. Recessions are going to affect your bottom line. The next category of 33% for spending, it's kind of wild to me how quickly things fall into the rear view, but we did fight 2 wars.
Yeah, we did. Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
And they were not cheap.
Yeah, we did. And they weren't cheap. No, so they probably there's not a single consensus because like how do you pull out like defense spending from like specific wartime spending from 2 different engagements, one that lasted like 10 years and one that lasted like 20 years roughly. But I think the kind of best estimates is that each of those wars in Iraq and Afghanistan set us back $2 to $3 trillion. So the spending side, I feel like you end up saying like tax cuts are Republicans' fault and spending is Democrats' fault. So they're kind of neck and neck in terms of what is causing the debt. But it is worth noting that almost all of this passed with bipartisan support.